Hello there, welcome back. Welcome back to Technology Innovation Hub. So it's going to be another session from DevOps portal. So let's continue the practical, our Minikube that we have been doing. So I just delivered the session 1 on getting familiar with the Minikube cluster. So let's continue the session 2 on getting familiar with Minikube cluster. Let me share my screen. Hi, now we have been doing this one. We just use a manifest file and we deployed, actually not deployed, we can't use the word deployed because we ran the create command, right? Kubectl create. So we created a resource, a pod resource inside our Minikube cluster, right? So yeah, so this is the, you may remember our manifest file, very small manifest file. So this is the manifest file. And we ran our command, and after that we just send describe, right? So you may remember, as soon as it ran, it's a container creating because the image was pulling, then it started the container, then it said running, right? This is my pod, right? So my pod, this is the command line we deployed, command line pod, but with the kubectl in command line. So this is with the manifest file. Now it's up and running, right? Okay, so we then describe pod. So describe, in a sense, we can see the details, what's happened behind while the pod is starting, right? Because there are various things happening in the Minikube cluster behind for a pod to start. So what we are doing, we are asking the Kubernetes cluster, the Minikube cluster. The command given was this, kubectl create and the file name. So we understood the content of the file name, right? The kubectl command, right? Currently, it is connected to Minikube cluster context, right? I mean, you may remember we got the cluster info, so it knows where it has connected to, right? And then what it does is tries to create this resource, because as soon as I type this command, it get contacted with the control plane of the cluster or the master node. So we have only one node. So within the master node, there is something called API, right? Okay. So you may remember, let me just again, we can say Minikube status command. So this is what happens, right? For you to get the things back to into memory. So better type it. Minikube status, right? So you can see these things, API server, and these things are running. So as soon as you run this kubectl create command, right? So what happens? This fellow submits a job, right? I mean, kubectl just make a request, right, to API server. Okay, I need this particular resource being created. So that's what happens, right? With the create command. Then API server is getting hold of with the node, right? Because we have only single node, right? So in the actual cluster, it's going to be a node pool, right? So we have only single node. Whatever the available node, it will look for the resources, right? Then what it does, initially it creates the content, the pod, right? Sorry, not the content. Initially it creates the pod, right? And then it's trying to pull the image. After that, the container is start. That's the procedure. So initially, on the left hand side, container will up, right? I mean, I told you container is like another computer, another machine, which is going to manage the resource requirement, the pod for the resource requirement. I think the pod, right? Pod is like another machine, right? Pod is like another machine, which is going to manage the resource requirement for the container, right? So initially what happens, the pod will get started. Started means it's just the environment for the image to come and sits on that and start the content. That is how it's going to be, the whole procedure, right? So initially what's going to happen, kubectl will get in touch with the API server. API server find the pre-resources, I mean a node with some pre-resources, then it initiates the pod, right? Then after that, the pod will try to start the container after pulling the image, right? So as soon as the pod initiated, the pulling operation also parallelly happens, right? With images to be pulled for the container restart. So this all set of activities is happening behind, right? So that's why till its container runs, it says, oh, I mean, it has to pull the image. Till it pulls, it says image is pulling or container creating, right? So once the image is pulling, it is running the image and container will get start. Then only finally you get 1 out of 1. So that is how it's going to be, right? Okay, so that is those are the steps. Now, if you want to see a explanation now, the theoretical explanation I did, we can see practically as well, right? What's happening behind. So the best thing is describe command. So once you run kubectl describe and the pod name kubectl describe to pod, the pod name, what happens? The step that I just explained, we can see how it's happened in detail, right? Now, if you take a look at it, you can see name. My fault. Namespace. We are not aware of namespaces yet. Namespace is also another way of managing resources inside the Minikube Kubernetes cluster. We learn it later. And this is the node. This is the only node we have. It's use the same IP. We saw it earlier, right? This is our Minikube IP. That's the only node. So it's going, pod is going to reside in that node, right? And just started around 4:30 to 40 minutes back. And labels, nothing, we didn't do any labeling, and node status running. Status running. Now, what is this IP? Very important. This is the pod IP. So that's why I mentioned pod is another computer, another machine, right? So we have a pod IP which is not going to change. Within the pod, there can be number of containers running, but the pod IP is going to remain the same. Inside the pod, we have several containers. Each container may have a different IP. That's a different thing. That's for a Docker IP, right? But the pod is going to remain in this IP. Okay. So then inside that container, you can see IP. This inside that pod, actually inside this pod, we're going to have container. You can see the container. So what was our container? Nginx container. That is what we asked him to pull. No? Nginx latest been pulled, and we have the image ID, right? And the host port, we have an indicator in the port, right? But you may remember earlier, right? I think if I have that one earlier with the command line, right? With the command line, this one, right? We mentioned a port, right? But in our manifest file, we didn't mention a port. Okay. So therefore, you can see in this output, this is I am describing the pod my Nginx app that is with the command line with this command. Since I have mentioned the port, right? You can see it is indicating here port. It is given because I have mentioned, right? And it is running in a different port. You can see it's a different IP, right? That's why I mean, it's in a different port, right? That's a different container earlier I ran, right? And it has a port process, but here with this manifest file, I didn't give a port, right? In the manifest file, there is no port. So therefore, describe command doesn't give you any port. See, it's none. Okay. So we can discuss more detail about that later. So that is what's happening. But now this mount point and node, this is inside the container, right? So if you want, we can get into the container, connect to the container, Nginx container. Nginx means this is the container name means my pod, no, right? Yeah, I think we in the manifest file, the name we gave is my pod, right? So that is what. So we connect to and see this mount point, we can check inside the container and type status okay and initialize, and we will discuss this thing little by little later. Port schedule true, and again quality of service best effort, that is because we haven't customized any resources, so it's going in best effort for resources. We can mention, we can say this port should have this much of CPU, this much of memory, and like that. We haven't done that, so that's why it's the best effort, the default. And tolerations also we haven't changed, right? So let's discuss those things later. All right, so what we'll do next, right? Let's check back our basic code. Yeah, our container name we have given name my container. That's the container name, not this one, right? So what you can do, so we will connect to our Minikube container, right? So we run Docker ps, right? And we will connect to Minikube container Docker exec interactive terminal bash, right? So now we are in the container, Minikube container. Inside that, we are going to have our container, because all the things we have run, we have created a pod resource within the Minikube cluster now, right? So now I am inside Minikube container, right? So within that, we are going to have the other containers, the Nginx container. I mean, we have my pod, right? Okay. So this one. My container, this one, which one run? This one is running within the Minikube container itself. So let's go in there. Now I am inside Minikube, right? And what I can do now, I am running Docker ps to see the containers running inside Minikube, right? So here I should be able to see that which one, my container up and running, right? Here, so here I connected container my pod somewhere. This is Nginx app, that's okay. My container should be there. Container my pod, container my pod 2. That filtered that. It's okay. Let's see. My container matrix support here, data tier, and let's okay. Let's try to get it from here and Docker. Yeah, it's the place now. Container ID, Nginx container my pod. Yeah, should be this one. Container ID. The image is Nginx. That's also will do it. Yeah, I think we can connect to that and we can click it. This is the my Nginx app, no, the other one. Container my pod. Yeah, we'll connect to this. It's okay, right? We'll connect to this and this one. This is my container ID. So let's again we connect within the Minikube container. We are connected to another container, right? So Docker exec minus IT, right? And paste bash. All right. So if I type ls, now I am inside the Nginx container now, right? Nginx container means we have this container. My container name is my container, and it has pulled this particular Nginx image. Now it's up and running. So this container is running the Nginx image now, right? So I have connected to that, and it has this directory structure. So if I go to this cd var, we want to check what? We want to check this mount point. No, you may remember we want to check this mount point. Var run seeker. So if I just copy that one, that's better. So we should have this mount point. This is because of that's within the Nginx container, right? So it's very simple. It just says cd test. You can see. Here we have the service account, right? So that's the mount point we are talking about. So that is inside the container, inside the Nginx container, this mount point, the service account, right? We have. All right. That is for you to get an idea how it really runs the resources inside the Kubernetes Minikube cluster, right? Okay, let's exit now. One exit will take me to the Minikube. Another exit will take me to the host. Host means the guest storage, right? Linux storage. All right, so we went to one container and from there we went to another container. Okay, first to the Minikube, then to the Nginx container. Okay. All right, so we can just run vi basic pod. So in basic pod, yeah, we gave name my container, right? Containers, my container, yeah. It's because in metadata, we gave the pod name as my pod, no. So that's why it says my container, container's name, my container underscore my pod. The earlier, the actual container name, if we take a look at the container name here, where we connected to, right? It was telling, yeah, you can see, that's why I see my part is here. That's like my container, right? My container underscore my pod. That's how it goes. Right? Because we spec we gave my pod, right? And we gave the container name my container. So it merged both, and that's how it goes. Okay. So this part is here, and okay, the pod name is here. That's correct. We connected to the connect. We connected to the correct container. Fine. Okay, so that is that, and you got that idea. If you go down further, okay, now we have demonstrated this practical, and go down further. Okay, my pod is technical. Okay, my pod is technically object of pod kind. Understood. Note that this pod has one container. That's true. Right, and for example, you can see I have another container here, Jenkins one. You can see 2 of 2. But in my 2 of 2, it has 2 pods, 2 containers. All of one having 1 of 1, or this one has 2 pods, 2 containers. It can be 1 pod, 2 containers as well. That kind of situation also there, we'll see it later. Right? So like, okay. Yeah, and the pod remain, yeah, it says the pod is remaining, there will be only one IP. Yeah, pod IP is not going to change. And also container details, yeah, that's there, and carefully observe the last event. So we watched everything, right? Connect to the Minikube, and we did that one as we went into the container, and that's the practical. So I will upload this one properly. You can try it out. Yeah, Docker PS, we went into there and we checked the secrets. Yes, that's one. Right? So that is that. Yeah, we can continue the practical, but let's deploy Nginx application on Minikube. Yeah. Now what we are going to do, we are trying to do a deployment. Up to now, we didn't do a deploy. What we did, we just created a pod resource using a command line as well as from the manifest file. Now we can try out a deployment as the next practical, but before that, let me show you one more thing. Now you may remember we have here is control get PO command, right? We have 2 ports, right? This is what we did with the command line. My Nginx app is command line. This is with manifest file, right? So if I describe both, I want to say describe pod my pod, PO my pod. Right? So this one is having 172.17 not by IP for pod, not by IP for pod, right? And the other one, let's describe this one. Because now it's in the same cluster, same Minikube cluster is running now, right? Same Minikube cluster, 2 pod resources are running. This one is having 172.17.0.18, right? That's another port. So you can see 2 ports are having 2 different IPs. This port is holding my Nginx app, right? And this port 17.5 is holding which one? My pod app, right? My pod. Yeah, my pod. Nginx image is Nginx later. Both are in Nginx data image, but the naming we have given separately, no? And this one, yeah, and it has a label as well because that is on the command line. Yes, that's why this label is not there in this place because we haven't included any labels. We'll learn those things, right? Because running in the command line is a little bit different where we don't do practically In production environment, for a quick shot, yes, we can do command line, but we used to always use the manifest file, right? So anyway, I just want to show you the two different IPs for two ports. One IP for this and another IP for another port. Both are holding two containers, okay, and one each, right? One previous port, one container, this port, other container. All right, right. I hope you got the idea, right? Yeah, the next one is we need to do a deployment. Let's deploy Nginx application. Again, Nginx is deploying, right? Now this time it is doing a deployment. Earlier we created the resource, no? I think we can do that part as well. Yeah, we can try it out. Let's see. Yeah, we'll do that practical as well. Yeah. Okay, let's continue, right? We'll do the deployment. So deployment is done in a command line, again, not in a manifest file. Later, we'll understand what is a deployment is more detail using a manifest file because it's a big topic. Now, this is I'm just doing for you to get an understanding what is a deployment kind of a thing, right? But I'm just thinking of breaking this video here because this need a big explanation. Otherwise, I have rushed through this. Otherwise, the video time will go up, right? And it will be a lengthy video. So anyway, let's break it here, right? I break it here and I'll do it in the next video, right? All right, so let's stop here and I'll come up the next practical, the deployment. Right? All right, if you like the video, you can put a subscribe. Have a great time. I'll meet you soon. Bye bye.